George Washington, the first president. The White House wasn't finished being built until after his presidency, and during his tenure, the capital of the USA was New York. Did you know that George Washington had a deep love for mules and was actually one of the first mule breeders in the United States? John Adams, the second president. Adams was the first president to live in the White House. He was also a great lover of books and established the Library of Congress with the purchase of a personal collection. Thomas Jefferson, the third president. A polymath, he's credited for the Louisiana Purchase. Jefferson loved playing the violin and began construction on his home, Monticello, at just 26 years old. James Madison, the fourth president. Known as the father of the Constitution, he was a small man at just 5'4". Madison had a pet parrot that outlived him. James Monroe, the fifth president. The era of good feelings came under his tenure. Monroe also established the Monroe Doctrine. He often wore knee breeches even when they were out of style. John Quincy Adams, the sixth president. Known for his diplomatic skills, Adams regularly took early morning swims in the Potomac River, sometimes in the nude. Andrew Jackson, the seventh president. He fiercely fought the Bank of the United States. Jackson had a parrot named Pole, which was known to swear loudly. Martin Van Buren, the eighth president. The Panic of 1837 occurred during his tenure. Van Buren was the first president to be born an American citizen and not British. William Henry Harrison, the ninth president. His presidency was the shortest, just 32 days. Harrison gave the longest inaugural address without wearing a coat, which many believe led to his death by pneumonia. John Tyler, the 10th president. He annexed Texas to the U.S. Tyler loved playing the violin and had 15 children. James K. Polk, the 11th president. He oversaw the acquisition of a vast amount of territory. Polk worked so hard that he often burned out candles in the White House. Zachary Taylor, the 12th president. He was a military leader with no political experience. Taylor was known to chew tobacco and often spat juice on the White House carpets. Millard Fillmore, the 13th president. He supported the Compromise of 1850. Fillmore was the last president who was neither a Democrat nor a Republican. Franklin Pierce, the 14th president. The Gadsden Purchase happened during his time. Pierce was arrested while in office for running over an old woman with his horse, but the charges were dropped. James Buchanan, the 15th president. He saw the nation edge closer to civil war. Buchanan loved to buy and set slaves free. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president. He abolished slavery. Lincoln had a cat named Tabby, and he once remarked that she was smarter than his entire cabinet. Andrew Johnson, the 17th president. He was the first president to be impeached. Johnson was a tailor before his political career and made his own suits. Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th president. He led the U.S. through Reconstruction. Grant was given a $1.20 speeding ticket for riding his horse too fast on a Washington street. Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th president. He ended Reconstruction. Hayes and his wife were the first to have a Siamese cat in the White House. James A. Garfield, the 20th president. His presidency was cut short by assassination. Garfield could write Latin with one hand and Greek with the other simultaneously. Chester A. Arthur, the 21st president. He revamped the U.S. Navy. Arthur owned over 80 pairs of pants and was known for his impeccable dress sense. Grover Cleveland, the 22nd president. He's the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Cleveland personally answered the White House phone. Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president. The White House got electricity during his term, but he was too scared to touch the switches. Grover Cleveland, the 24th president. Yes, him again. During his second term, he secretly had a surgery on a yacht. William McKinley, the 25th president. His term saw America become an empire. McKinley wore a red carnation for good luck. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th president. He started the national park system. Roosevelt was blind in one eye because of a boxing match in the White House. William Howard Taft, the 27th president. He later became a Supreme Court justice. Taft was so large, he once got stuck in the White House bathtub. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th president. He established the League of Nations. Wilson showed the first ever film in the White House. Warren G. Harding, the 29th president. His term was marked by scandals. Harding loved to play poker and once bet the White House china and lost it. Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president. He was known for his fiscal conservatism. Coolidge had a pet raccoon named Rebecca. Herbert Hoover, the 31st president. The Great Depression began during his term. Hoover Ball, a mix of volleyball and tennis, was invented during his presidency. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd president. He led the U.S. through World War II. FDR loved stamp collecting. Harry S. Truman, the 33rd president. He made the call to drop atomic bombs on Japan. Truman's middle initial S doesn't stand for anything. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th president. He started the interstate highway system. Eisenhower was an avid golfer and even had a putting green installed on the White House grounds. John F. Kennedy, the 35th president. The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred during his term. JFK loved James Bond books and met the author, Ian Fleming. Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th president. He launched the Great Society. Johnson had an amphibious car and used to scare guests by driving them into a lake. Richard Nixon, the 37th president. He's the only president to resign from office. Nixon was a big bowler and had a lane installed in the White House. Gerald Ford, the 38th president. He pardoned Nixon. Ford was a model during his college days. Jimmy Carter, the 39th president. He brokered the Camp David Accords. Carter was the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital. Ronald Reagan, the 40th president. He was a former actor. Reagan loved jelly beans and kept a jar on his desk in the Oval Office. George H.W. Bush, the 41st president. He saw the end of the Cold War. Bush hated broccoli so much he banned it from Air Force One. Bill Clinton, the 42nd president. He was the second president to be impeached. Clinton played the saxophone and even performed on a talk show. George W. Bush, the 43rd president. He led the U.S. after the 9/11 attacks. Bush was a cheerleader during his college days. Barack Obama, the 44th president. He was the first African-American president. Obama loves basketball and has a left-handed jump shot. Donald Trump, the 45th president. He was a former reality TV star. Trump has a cameo in the movie Home Alone 2. Joe Biden, the 46th president. He's the oldest person to be elected president. Biden loves ice cream and often shares his favorite flavors.